Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Grab your popcorn, grab your drink, grab the kids, call the neighbors, call your auntie, call your nenen. Let them know that Simon Says is on. Buckle down. We'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. So today we're going to start off with some news, some little current affairs, and then we're going to get into the meat of the matter. But first, I want to big up Mr. Thomas Charles, a fan of mine visiting home from Maryland. And I have to, and I know he's not the first fan that come from the diaspora and come to look for me. But I have to mention, because I know I won't get it, so you couldn't mention me too. But I have to, because this gentleman finally caught up with me on Wednesday by phone and said to me he'd been searching for me for days. And this guy walked the whole of town, St. George's, downtown St. George's. Then they sent him to Grannan's and walked to Grannan's until he found where he could find, where he's supposed to find me. I wasn't there, and he got a number there to call me. So I just want to say to Mr. Thomas Charles, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate. And say hello to your wife as well. Say hello to your wife as well. And while I'm I'm going to big up my girl, Kathy Albert. Kathy, you're a special person as well. Don't come for me. You all are special, okay? You all are special. But I just had to mention these two persons this morning. Folks, the rainy season is here. And so I want to share with you what the Monroe area look like. And as we call it, our hotel belt. Just take a good look. If you look up on your screen, you'd also see some still shots of the area as well. Now, it will only take 2 buckets of rain to flood the area where it's supposed to be our hotel belt, right? If just take a look at the drains, the bushes that's growing out of the drains, and even where there's not that many bushes, you can see the drain, the dirt, the silt in the drain is right up to road level. And we already been threatened by a hurricane for this season already, and we've been having these showers of rains and floods in certain areas. Other islands in the Caribbean have had it worse than we have so far. But it's right here. It's on our doorsteps. And the gentleman who speaks of the Great South, our representative in the South, the Minister for MIT, Andy Williams, he's everywhere minding everybody else's business. Going up in the Northwest to hold to hold meetings. And take a look. The concrete road. Thank you for that concrete road. But where's the drainage? That by road that takes you from one side of Monroe to the other, across the field, by the field, between the field and the crop bank, should I say, and courts, right? There's no drainage. So the other day, not long after the road was open, maybe a few days, even if not as much as a week, we had a drizzle and the whole place flooded. And I'm wondering. So I passed it the other day and took a good look. They have a slope, a little slope, and a piece of concrete alongside it. That's not a drain. That is a flooded area, anyways. The field floods, the road. So a drizzle and it flooded. If we're going to do something as we take to tick boxes, let's take our time and do it. We're wasting resources. But I beg of you, sir, clean up the drains alongside the Monroe roadways. I beg of you. So the former chairman of the UK chapter, Roy McEwen, the one who put the monies for the Prime Minister's gala into his personal account, the one who cannot account for the raffle monies and the raffle gifts, the presents, the prizes for the raffle. That one. Understand he's in Grenada, and he came to Grenada to support the Prime Minister in his campaign, or should I say the member for St. David in his campaign for the 2026 elections, or whenever it is called. And since Mr. McEwen is here so early, I'm assuming that the elections is going to be earlier than 2027. I just want to say, now we can understand why the accusations, and rightly so, of embezzlement and the corruption and the victimization and bullying of members of that chapter for speaking out and for asking the questions. Why is the money in your account? That type of questions. Where is the money for the raffle? And where are the prizes for the raffle held? That was since in 2020, 2022 or 2023 thereabout, and 2023. It is no wonder he was allowed to get away with it until the people pressed the whole chapter mashup, and he realized he had to step away, although it didn't make a difference. The chapter is still mashup, right? Because he is in the inner circle. He's in the inner circle, of course, because remember, the chapter tried to have meetings with the Prime Minister, with the PRO, with the Deputy PRO, who was Rondell Robinson, I believe, the Gen Sec then, Larry Barry. They spoke to Joseph Anhel. They tried everything under the sun to get a meeting to speak about what's going on with the chapter and Mr. Roy McEwen, to no avail. However, he's here now, and I want to say, welcome to Grenada, Mr. Or should I say, welcome home, you Grenadian. Welcome home, Mr. McEwen. Here on Simon Says, we say, all that in the dark will come to light eventually. Of course, where facts come first, and no holes barred. No holes barred. So, interestingly, Simon Says will be following you. Simon Says will be following you here in Grenada. So now, as I understand it, there is a rush to distribute the relief items from Saudi Arabia because the expiration dates on some of them is here, and and in some cases are very close. So the goods are being about to be expired, so it's a rush. And what we're doing, we are handing it out to MPs and caretakers to give it out in their constituency. Yeah? You remember, very recently, maybe 3 weeks, episodes ago, I did a program where the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique were asking for the 21 containers brought to Grenada, given as a gift from Saudi Arabia, from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Remember that? And I spoke of some of it being stored in the old Andels building on Melville Street and the Nadma building in Monjaloo, from floor to ceiling, wall to wall. I do hope Carriacou even gets out of this, because the way it's been shared out and given out in Grenada now, even that, they couldn't get right to share out the relief items to Carriacou and Petit Martinique. What has Carriacou and Petit Martinique done, you guys? What have Carriacou and Petit Martinique done, you guys? That they've just been neglected like that. And then when someone speak about it, we have the Minister for Carriacou and Petit Martinique Affairs coming out and talking about, look what we do, show a pretty house. 3, 4, 5, 6 houses, not helping. It's not an achievement for a whole island. And of course, Petit Martinique still stands without not one Build Back Better house. Or should I say Build Back Better? Let's leave out Build Back, sorry, let's leave out the better. Come on now. Come on now. The workers of the Grenada Postal Corporation, GPC, or should I say some of the workers, down tools this past week due to health and safety hazards. The general manager, also, who spends a lot of time in the clouds, he was out when the protest started. Not sure if he's back yet. His deputy manager, a first for the corporation, workers is like, we're hearing of this. We've never had this before. But it is alleged that the manager is not performing. Well, we could understand that because he's on Facebook all day posting in support of the NDC and getting into arguments in support of NDC. He's an activist. He's an NDC activist. I don't know if that, I mean, that's not the reason he's not performing. I guess he's not performing because he can't do the job. However, they got a deputy manager to manage him, right? But according to the workers, the deputy manager joins him in the clouds as well.
It's all tools down for workers at the Grenada Postal Corporation, as employees at the Burns Point facility in St. George refuse to enter the building due to what they describe as hazardous and deteriorating working conditions. Approximately 30 staff members stood outside their workplace Monday morning wearing red ribbons. They have cited an infestation of mold, termites, and other long-standing health and safety concerns plaguing the building.
The building is moldy. It is also, when you enter the building, it's sort of a stuffy because of the air quality. It is not good. It's not good enough air quality. And we were promised that we would have moved a long time ago, but it is not forthcoming, and we were promised again to be moved. But we are just trying to stake our claim today that we mean business. We want to move because persons are getting sick. Persons are getting sick with respiratory illnesses. Persons are getting sick with itching and watery eyes. The inside of the building, the roof is leaking. Ceilings are coming down. There are termites dropping everywhere, and we kind of just get fed up with that situation.
Everybody experiencing a lot of different stuff here, because for like me, at my desk you have like termite droppings, termites, and sometimes when the rain comes, it falls, it wets us, and if you have to use the washroom, the face basin have no water. At present, the face basin have no water, and every now and then the bathroom flood, and then you know the water inside is like toilet water coming from under. You understand? And that things we have to go through. I'll be going through that for a while. Like I could say, like I said before, I'm saying the management is bad, but it's time for the step up and take interest in the workers as well, because if workers get sick, there will be nothing going on here.
Newly elected first vice president of the Public Workers Union, which represented the workers, Lyndon Ferre, told GBN News the situation has existed since during the COVID-19 pandemic. In early May, the union sent an official letter asking that, as a show of good faith, at least the administrative staff be relocated by May 23rd. Unfortunately, that request was not met.
It is unfair to the workers to have to be working in this condition. And as the Labour Code states, the workers have a right to remove themselves under Section 74(2)(e), which they did. We have had consultations with the GPC. We were hoping that this situation would not have escalated to this. However, we're still waiting on the GPC to give us some concrete evidence to show that they really, really care about the health and safety of these workers behind them. Because remember, the workers come here every day to give up their time and their expertise to GPC for 8 hours. It is unfair to them to have them working under these conditions and for so long. And we think that it is incumbent on the Grenada Postal Corporation to ensure that this issue is addressed expeditiously.
Ferre says the working condition at the GPC building at Buns Point pose a serious risk to both employees and customers' health and must no longer be brushed aside.
We have been waiting on them. We gave them certain commitment as it relates to even using our building there. And we're still waiting. Again, I must say, yes, I would have inspected the proposed site. I had a long chat with Mr. Robinson and also Brother Adrian Francis. They are optimistic that very soon the workers will be posted there. But in the meantime, we cannot have the workers waiting for the building to be completed and then still being affected health-wise, right? So we ask the GPC hierarchy to address this and address it now, because the workers will not be going back inside under these conditions.
The GBN News team reached out to the general manager of the Grenada Postal Corporation, Randall Robinson, for a response. Robinson, who is off island, indicated, and I quote, "I have been briefed by the acting accountant, who is managing in my absence, that the management team, along with some staff members and trainees, are engaged in serving the public as best they can in the circumstances. We therefore appeal to the public to bear with us as we work to have this matter resolved in the shortest possible time." Unquote. Rena P. Thomas, GBN News.
Compliments GBN. Now, since COVID-19, there was no water in the faucet at the face basin. Since COVID-19, sewer water was coming up from below the surface of the bathroom floor. You see, that's what happens when union members practices partisan politics. It shows up in their performances. It shows up in their words. The Grenada Postal Corporation is running broke. The staff is reporting they have never seen this at the Postal Corporation before, the way it's been run. They have never had a deputy manager before and never seen so much traveling before. General Manager Randall Robinson and his deputy Abisha Maxime, either traveling together or together apart. In other words, they both are out at the same time but in separate places. But for the most part, they travel together to go to wherever in the world there's a meeting to do with postal corporations, I imagine. Life at all our institutions where surrogates are planted The resources are abused and misused, and for the most part, the members, the surrogates, are stuck in the clouds. February 2025, I did an episode which spoke to you on the concerns of the workers, fearing that sooner than later they may not have a job. At the rate the abuse and misuse of the corporation resources are happening. For months, they've been paying rent for the cigarette factory building on the carronage, for it to be retrofitted to accommodate them. A rent of 40,000 US dollars per month is being paid while they sit on the port in those conditions. You've heard them yourselves. Now, I could understand the delay to remove them, because if you're paying $40,000 rent where they are now, as I mentioned in my previous podcast on the post office, they're not paying rent. Now, to move anywhere else, they would have to pay rent. So they'd be paying two rents, one at 40,000 for sure. So I could understand the dragging of the feet. However, we're dealing with lives of individuals, mothers, fathers, kids, children, parents. We're dealing with here lives. And so we're very sorry that you're going to have to pay another rent. But please find a place to put the workers in the interim. I understand that the customs is refusing to send staff to work in the building under those conditions. Meanwhile, the workers are refusing to go to work. And the general manager, somewhere in the clouds. In other news, new directors elected to serve on the GCNA board happened on May the 29th, 2025. The election took place during the association's annual general meeting. Newly elected directors are Marvin Andel, Wayne George, Willen Thompson. That's the head of securities in the Prime Minister's, out of the Prime Minister's office. Matthew William, Ashley Cummins, and Helen Williams. It feels like I'm calling out an NDC executive after a convention. I mean, guess we can say the farmers are in trouble. The farmers are in trouble. I'll leave it there for now, but we'll follow closely the GCNA and their new board. In other news, through the Minister of Youth and Sports, Delma Thomas, we've learned that Grenada will be hosting the 2026 Carifta Games.
I am pleased to officially announce that Grenada will host the Carifta Games in 2026.
There's a sadness in the way she did it, because the way they wanted the games, you'd expect probably almost cartwheels, because we're the richest island in the Caribbean. And so, well, Barbados and Guyana and Jamaica and so can't afford to keep it, which is anyone of their turn, we can do so. I mean, we knew it was coming because they damn near agreed since the games in Trinidad. But they were counting pennies. And though the government, central government, says they cannot afford to host it, to host the carifta games, they have asked the National Lottery Authority and the CBI to sponsor. Now, they're subsidiaries of the government, but I guess they had their own little coffers that has been being abused lately. I mean, the CBI is right up there with the lottery authority these days, right? And so they've been asked, or being told, not asked, being told that they have to sponsor the games. And the committee, any other monies they need, they were told they should seek sponsorship on their own. Can you imagine that? Central government declaring they can't afford to host the games. But we're hosting. Moving right along. It's a packed, very packed episode. Now someone sent me a clip of podcaster Junior George and his podcast Ride Along, speaking on the MBIA upgrades. Now, most of you would know that I can't use his clips anymore on Simon Says, but I can quote what he said. He started off by saying when the upgrade started, the NNP was in power, and that before the project was completed, which is obvious, the NNP lost the elections, and the NDC-led Dickon Mitchell administration took power, and that's in 2022. I'm going to quote here. The NDC administration continued with the negotiation, the process working to complete the upgrade. Now I'm reading exactly what he said, so if it doesn't sound right, that's what he said. Now, that's not true. First off, right off the bat, that's a lie. Negotiations were done and finished with when NDC came into office. There's no negotiation to take place. Work was already started, because remember, they started with the ring road, right? So, and whatever started in the actual MBIA upgrade, right? The project was already 2 years in. And yes, the NDC attempted to claim and take credit for the success and of the upgrade of the MBIA. It was clear. And yes, by the way, the Prime Minister mentioned, quite casually, I would say, if you blinked, you would not have heard him say it, because he just, by the way, that they had inherited the project, right? Full stop. And remember, I said, who you inherited it from? Your grandparents? No mention. The way they love to talk about the former administration and Dr. Mitchell. Everything. Oh, the former administration did it. Dr. Mitchell and his NNP. The former, no mention of the former administration when it came to that project, right? And so throughout the entire ceremony and the rest of the Prime Minister's speech, as a matter of fact, no mention. No mention. He thanked the Chinese the government and people of the Republic of China. He thanked the Chinese company that did the work. He thanked the floor cleaners. He thanked everybody. Everyone got mentioned except His Majesty's opposition, or if you want to say the former NMP administration led by the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell. Nothing. And of course, they were all missing in action. They were not invited. Now, what is more telling about that story is the fact that the NDC, at the time of the announcement of that project, mounted a protest against the project, verbally condemning the project. In fact, Harris Sinti daughter, who was then PRO of the NDC on the project.
Yes. So how are we going to pay back this loan? Will the airport generate enough revenues to repay this loan? We just had structural adjustment program, stringent structural adjustment program, and the Prime Minister boasts a lot of moving our debt to GDP ratio from 110% to down to close to the 60% that is recommended by the IMF. Now, I was speaking with one economist, and he said to me, this loan could bring us right back to in the region of 110% if we are not able to pay. And all of the experts in the field are questioning our ability to pay, because they are saying the airport simply does not generate the kind of revenue needed to sustain that loan. And what happens? What happens in the event of a default? Is a judgment going to be taken up against us when we cannot pay? Will the entire loan be called in immediately as there is a default? Because these are the kinds of conditions that I understand usually attached to loans from this specific source. You default.
What's the specific source, Sinti daughter? Who's that specific source you're speaking of? The Chinese? Say it. Don't be afraid to say it. Don't be afraid to say it. But today I ask, how are we going to pay back that loan? Question must be asked, right? It's the same project. And today, my friends, it's the vision of the NDC. Hell no. And the NNP must sit back, according to the podcaster, and not take credit. He said if they want credit, go in Digicel and Flow, right? They must not take credit for the project. Okay? He said it's the government owned and not any political party. All projects belongs to the government. I like that. I like to hear that, because we've been kicking boxes, right? So whose monies was used to pay the pension and gratuity that the NDC is taking credit for, and that any other administration would have had to pay it unless they decided to go back to court, because there was a court ruling, right? But they came in, they made loads of monies in the treasury, and they were able to pay pension, and whose monies were used. So why are we ticking that box? That's the first and probably one of the only achievements of the we know the three that they have, the three achievements: the duck salary and the rise in the minimum wage, right? Whose monies were used, and whose money are being used to pay for the people y'all can afford to pay for the rise in minimum wage, because everybody's not getting it. All government workers are not being paid what your law stipulated that minimum wage should should begin at, right? So we need to untick some boxes. We need to get erasers and erase the ticks in these boxes. According to your podcaster, your activist, because like it or not, he's an NDC activist. And all of a sudden, nobody should claim, no political party should claim. Now here is our own press secretary, the host of the event, Ms. Neela Etienne.
The airport, the Morris Bishop International Airport runway road upgrade and rehabilitation project stands as a testament to what can be achieved with the right vision, collaboration, and unwavering dedication.
What can be achieved with the right vision? Etienne giving Right Honorable Dr. Mitchell and the NNP that praise of the right vision? Well, then say so. Say thank you for the right vision of the former administration, right? But if you think she was bad, let's listen to Ms. Slinger as she gave the vote of thanks.
Acknowledging all protocols as previously established. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Grenada Airports Authority, it is truly our privilege to extend our heartfelt thanks for this occasion. The completion and handover of the Maurice Bishop International Airport runway and road upgrade and rehabilitation project. To our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Dickon Mitchell, and the government of Grenada, thank you for your leadership and your commitment to national development. Your vision has helped to drive this initiative forward.
She said, and I quote, to the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Dickon Mitchell, and the government of Grenada, thank you for your leadership and your commitment to national development. She said, your vision has helped to drive this initiative forward. She addressed directly Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell and the government of Grenada and gave them praise for the project. Whose vision was it? Simon Says goes on record here, thanking the former administration, the former NNP administration, led by the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, for their vision, for their leadership and commitment to national development. It belongs to you. Take it. Take your flowers. So Mr. Ride Along said, and I'm quoting, I have a big problem when any political party try to claim credit for anything that they do when they're in government. A big joke. He said any political party, all of a sudden, because a project of that magnitude should not be claimed by the NNP, especially since after 3 years in office, the NDC has nothing to stamp their authority on, nothing to claim of that magnitude, nothing of that magnitude to claim, right? No capital projects. So they have nothing. So it don't belong to that project, don't belong to nobody. It belongs to the government and people of Grenada, right? Okay. Continued, and I'm quoting, I have a major problem with that. Because at the end of the day, they are the government of Grenada. And the government of Grenada, although, yes, it is led by a political leader, that particular party or the head of the political party, but it's government of Grenada. Bottom line, and he's wrong. A government is not led by a political leader. The government is led by the prime minister. The party is led by the political leader. Get your ducks in a row there, right? So, bottom line, NNP have no right to try and claim or get credit or take credit or ask for credit for the airport, the MBIA upgrade, right? And road rehabilitation project that just finished beautifully, beautiful. All that Mr. Ride Along said there is hogwash. Hogwash. All of a sudden, it's the government of Grenada. So when Randall Robinson and his co-hosts listed in desperation a number of so-called achievements of this NDC administration, it's not them, it's not their own, it's the government's, right? Although it was that administration or government, call it what you want, that claim, scrape the bottom of the barrel in some instances. Although it was that administration or government, call it whatever you want, I ain't claiming some of those achievements. Let's hear them.
In just under 2 years, this NDC-led government has accomplished so much. And we have so much more to be accomplished. The pension.
We paid it.
The minimum wage.
We increased that.
The creative industry.
We unleashed that.
The education.
Did better and more
and
affordable. You're telling me we're building back better?
And workers.
They're secure
and happier. No more than ever.
Brothers and sisters, put all your hands together for the government.
Right? Okay. But lest we forget, or for those of you who don't know, that on that NDC platform, the political rally, the host was Mr. Randall Robinson, the general manager of the Grenada Postal Corporation. And there's more. What I termed scraping the bottom of the barrel. In a release put out of Comet the Frog, and I like that. I like that it's Comet that is putting out this release here, because it is the Muppet Show. It is. We just saw what we just saw there. Had to be a section of the Muppet Show. From April 2024 to now, highlights. 19 new registered nurses. These are things that the NDC, with the NDC logo, and it says NDC focus and delivering and putting people first, right? NDC. That's a logo big and bold. You know, no government there. Of course, Comet look really cute. Comet look really cute there. Yeah, you can see. Comet look really cute. And it says 19 new registered nurses, the largest participation in carifta games, right? Those are accomplishments of the party, right? Boots on the ground, it claimed hashtag boots on the ground. I'm gonna put it up. We're gonna put up on the screen, right? The restoration of Victoria Park. Now we all know what went on in Victoria Park, right? We know that without the Ministry and Minister of Infrastructure knowing, and also the Ministry and Minister of Education knowing, or Youth and Sports, sorry, Mr. William Batiste, the chairman of the National Lottery Authority, took $275,000 to do the renovation of the park. There was an overrun of $295,000. We know the story of Mr. William Batiste and his GM. They are the signatories on the National Lottery account. Just the two of them. They're in a relationship, so to speak, and they sign off on the checks without the Prime Minister, who's the Minister of Infrastructure, knowing. As a matter of fact, he was away when the whole thing burst. He was in Cuba, remember? Right? So let's move on. So that's claimed as an achievement as well. Of course, it's an achievement. For who? For Mr. William Batiste, for the government and people of Grenada. And then it says assistance to fire victims in Chantimel. Where are these victims now? Then you have lowest backlog of cases in the High Court in 12 years. And they had 79 cases. This is the NDC, boots on the ground, the NDC claiming that they're focused on delivering, right? But they don't want NNP to claim the airport project. Because these are the little things they have to dig and find and grab at. Because they did nothing substantial for the people that they say they put in first, always have. Putting people first is on there too. Yeah. The PM and delegation visit to Cuba. Several MOUs were signed. Well, we will hear about these MOUs later. Sustainable Tourism Conference. They had a tourism conference, and it's on their achievement list, folks. And then you have a surrogate, a goon, come in and say, NNP should not try and claim for the project because parties should not claim. It's just the government. Right? And yes, the leader of the opposition is correct in her press release. He complained about that when she said that the MBIA project was not the only one that they tried to claim. And of course, for people who has not been following, because you know some of us only started following politics after October 2022, and more so after October 2021, I'm sorry, and June 2022, right? That's when we first had our first government in office, our first prime minister, Dr. Honorable Deacon Mitchell, and when we had our first government doing anything for the people of Grenada. It's the first time. So that's when they started to follow. So for the people like that, who never followed before, we must let them know. We must let them know. Yeah, we got to. She said that the MBIA project was not the only one. Recently, our star boy, the member for the Great South seek to take credit for the UK SIF water supply expansion and sewer improvement project. And I have to read that one to you as well. My phone. A.J. Williams. For years, living in Grandans, I remember my classmates teasing me saying, Grandans is a desert, no water. Well, I wasn't living in a desert. I was living in Montparnasse, where it's mountainous, lush green vegetation. And we had to joke water. I joke water for school. And I had schoolmates who came from Laborie, Hopeville, Munjaloo, Mount Airy, St. Paul's, all the areas, they parade white gun to Montparnasse to fetch water, where that Alpha School is now. Owned, the property there owned by the Steels at the time, and they had their own little reservoir, and we got water from there. Well, luckily for me, they were my neighbors, so it wasn't a long walk. But we had to fetch water before we go to school, enough for my mom to use while she's at home to clean, cook, wash, whatever she had to do. And as I said, there were children who came and adults who came from as far as Hopeville, Mount Airy, that area, to come there to fetch water. I've seen firsthand how residents, especially those in the hilly areas, have had to struggle, sometimes fetching water to their homes. It's not easy. Finally, after 9 years of waiting, we are seeing the Southern Water Expansion Project being implemented with the installation of the 500,000 gallon tank at Guangkai and the ongoing pipeline works. With this project will transform the water and distribution network in my constituency. These efforts will drastically ease the long-standing water storage in the south of the island, bringing much needed relief and better quality of life. And again, thank you to the former administration, the former NNP administration, led by Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. Now, from my stash here, I'm going to get, and we're going to put it up as well. This is a piece of document from the CDB, and speaking to, of course, the UK Aid SIF project. And it says, project profile, water supply expansion and sewer improvement project. And it reads, the project aims to improve Grenada's water and sewer network by increasing efficiency, building climate resistance, and reducing water sector risks. The project is expected to result in an expansion, I'm thinking in an expansion and upgrade of Concord existing distribution network by constructing a new plant and a storage facility. This will help to secure potable water supplies for St. George's and tourism developments in the south, many of which are currently supplied using private desalination plants. The project will also look at improving sewer infrastructure in the Carenage port area of St. George's, which currently experiences overflowing during periods of heavy rains. Now, this here has nothing to do with and does not concern the NDC administration. I'll tell you why. In November of 2016, and you know how the CDB like to do their report and have everything down. So they're telling us here now that in November of 2016, technical assistance, which they call TA, grant to prepare capital project approved. The grant to prepare the capital project was approved. That's in November of 2016. If my memory served me right, the NNP was in office then. In December of 2017, consultations engaged to prepare a feasibility design and a detailed designs. 2019, project approval of capital projects. 2019, project approval of capital project. Now they also show the project funding and a little map here. It says total UKSIF allocation for Grenada, £23.2 million. Now the last status we got from the CDB was in 2019. It says also key contracts, Government of Grenada and NAWASA, National Water and Sewage Authority. Caribbean Development Bank, and mentioned here, persons involved. Now, I spoke to one of the UKSIF project during the budget debate when the same Andy Williams stood up in Parliament and made similar accusations against the former administration, stating that they didn't do anything in 2019, 2021, and count down. Now he said 9 years. And if we subtract 9 years from now, it would bring us right back to the 2016, right? The status here in November 2016, according to the CDB, when the whole thing got underway, right? Sit down and shut up. And stop trying to mislead the nation, right? Like the Western Corridor project, UKSIF, this water project was well on its way. Of course, we know what happened after 2019. As a matter of fact, in some countries, the COVID started in 2019. By 2020, it was in the Caribbean, right? And so when you go telling like for 9 years, nothing was done, and since you came in, and it's time to just go and lay the pipes, that we can just start a project of that magnitude, bring in pipes and lay pipes. No, that's not how this thing works. It's a process, right? The project aims to improve Grenada's water and sewage network by increasing efficiency, building climate resilience, and reducing water sector risk. The project is expected to result man expansion and upgrade of Concord's existing distribution network by constructing a new plant and storage facilities. This will help to secure potable water supplies for St. George's and the tourism development in the south, many of which are currently supplied using desalination plants, private desalination plants. The project will also look at improving sewer infrastructure in the Carenage port area of St. George's, which currently experiences overflowing during periods of heavy rains. The COVID-19 pandemic started in Grenada in 2020 and ended in 2022. Our general elections was in June of 2022. So all this hogwash, all this story about we waited for 9 years, it is disingenuous and downright deceptive, willfully misleading the nation to say that after 9 years of waiting, we are seeing the Southern Water Expansion Project. Who was waiting for 9 years? According to the CDB report, things was going on. It was a plan. It is a plan. These projects follow specific processes, which are typically characterized as by a sequence of steps or actions that led to a particular outcome. Right? So it's a process, a sense of action or events that works together to achieve a specific result. It don't just happen so. We don't just buy pipe and put on pipe. It's a process. So the process, Mr. MIT, got underway from November 2016. According to the CDB report. Stop speaking on what you don't know. You know. You said in a clip at the St. George's Baptist Church, you could have gone to jail. Well, just maybe you should have gone to jail and gained some rehabilitation. And maybe, just maybe, you might have become a better person. You can't continue so in the politics. People are catching on, you know. People are catching on. Say that clip.
You need help, Brother Andy Williams, who is the owner of Hotspot, and he'll now explain. I want him first to tell you his story, so at least this would be in context.
Thank you. Pleasant good morning to all. I want to ask Pastor Simon and Pastor Cornwall to come up, just come by me here for 1 minute. And let me come in the middle. Right, good. And I want two ladies here to stand, right? And they do not know that they have to stand here today. They have no clue. But I want to ask my mom to stand. Yeah, stand up, yeah. And I want to ask this young lady here to stand. Stand up. Now, someone asked me where did the idea of the starter pack came from. Let me just tell you, I have no original idea. Every idea that I have, I get it from someone. Right? People think that Andy is so brilliant and everything. I have no original idea. I always get an idea from someone. Now, 10 years ago, Brother Cornwall, I could have been in prison. Right? I lost my job. And this lady right here and my dad bailed me out. Right?
I don't know who the people are that think he's so brilliant. But yeah, to each his own. The lies and the deceptiveness is a disrespect to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And you know what's funny? These people like that, they always go looking plain sympathy card. You know? He didn't change. The most corruption within this administration is taking place within the ministry of MIT, where Andy Williams is the manager. That's where money's flying left, right, and center, cash. Service providers are being paid cash, 15,000, 30,000 cash, and coming up with $500 cash tip. That's where people are called to cash checks and being walked to the bank by members of his staff, collect the envelopes with the money and go back to their office. Projects that have not started yet, but once they have your name down as a contractor and they need their monies, they need to use monies, they call you, bring your ID, come with your ID, time to change a check. A check for what? You don't have a job, you have not signed a contract yet. But they take the entire batch of money, whatever the person cash, and go back with it. Miss Dawn Hosford, right? And the permanent secretary, Miss Nicole Clark of that ministry, pays off in cash. This is the same gentleman that took a handshake of $100,000 from a contractor. So all these things, I could have been in jail and God and stand up there with Sanford Simon and Mr. Cornwall, looking for the sympathy of the people of Grenada. You're working because you have not changed. You have not changed. You all need to stop the willful lies. Stop make believe and mamagai the people. It starts at the head, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell. He's the king, the kingpin. There is a process to follow. You and your administration had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with none. The UK SIF CDB projects. And as the NDC person would say, good NDC person would say, strong NDC person would say, and is that. According to Simmer, and we have to talk about Simmer, and is that. Question to the minister responsible for Carriacou and Petit Martinique affairs, Minister Tevin Andrews. In the 2023 estimates of revenue and expenditure, the budget, in other words, you spoke of a fire tender ordered by the previous administration, and you admitted, and I give you praise for that. Ordered by the previous administration that was on the way. And I did a little investigation, of course, and it was ordered. So where is it? Let's hear him.
Sure that we get that delivered in short order. A new fire truck is also on its way. The people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. This one, I must give credit to the former administration. They are the ones that put in the work for that one. So where credit is due, credit is given.
Now, as I said, I confirmed with the relevant personnel. But the fire tender to date has not arrived in Carriacou. Why not, Mr. Minister? Why not? In that same presentation, you boasted that in only 5 months, among other things, you ordered a fire tender for Petit Martinique. This too was on its way. Let's hear you.
And in 5 months, this is the project that I'm going to talk about, this is what we, as a ministry and as member of parliament, as minister, we collectively have been able to achieve. One, you can't take it, ordering of new fire tender for the island of PT Martinique. The supplemental budget, which was passed not too long ago, spoke about that. PT Martinique, you're only getting lighting, the jetty fixing, they're getting road, they're getting lights on the jetty, look, they're getting fire tender. And Mr. Speaker, do you know, 1 month.
Now, right now, they ain't even have a jetty, much less lights. But where are these 2 fire tenders? All your achievements claimed for his constituents. I wonder if he partner hearing, because he's claiming, right? The NNP must not take claim for the airport expansion and rehabilitation project, because that's their job, using taxpayers' money. I guess Tevin ordered the fire truck out of his pockets. That's probably why they're not here now. So he must have canceled the order. Now, that will account for the Pity Matnik one. What happened to the Kaku one? Recently, there were fires on both islands, Carriacou and the Pity Martinique. The one in Pity Martinique, the island of Pity Martinique, destroyed the Nadma kitchen. If you look on the screen now, you'd see what's left from the fire. And I must give kudos to the people of Pity Martinique, who used buckets to out the fire. And they're already suffering for water. They must have joked the water from the ocean, right? But they got the fire control eventually. It could have been much worse. As for the jetty with the lights, that never happened. And on 1st of July 2024, Hurricane Beryl demolished the jetty. And to date, almost 1 year later, all that remain are the piles. If you look on your screen, yeah, I took that picture when I went to Carriacou. Not doing bad, huh? Yep, that's what's left of the jetty. Don't forget, it was a project achieved by the Minister of Carriacou and Pity Martinique Affairs in the 2023 budget. Just 5 months, as he said. Yeah? Just 5 months. So there was supposed to be a project of a new jetty just 5 months after they came into office. That never happened. Then Beryl demolished the one that was there. And so it's almost a year now, and it's still as it was after Beryl. Folks, and we are at that juncture again. Campaign season, when fantasies are broadcast as realities. Here's Tevin Andrews asking the people of Carriacou and Pity Martinique for their votes, that is before the election, to be their member of parliament to provide sustainable development for them.
Pity Martinique, sisters and brothers of Grenada, I want to let you know, I want to be your member of parliament. Not just to build roads and drains and to give people handout, because I don't really believe in that. I believe in sustainable development. I believe in vision, having a vision and a plan so that we take the country and the island forward into prosperity for all the people and not just some. I want to be your member of parliament to fight for you. So when Brother Deacon say, Brother Tevin, we can't give you that appointment for down and say, Brother Deacon, we got to do it for the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique.
Where's that energy? Where's that fight for the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique? Especially the people of Petit Martinique. Where's that fight? What do you want it to do? You want to fight for the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. Now, while in opposition, the brother Tevin Andrew was asked a question on a morning program, to the point program, to tell the people what's going on in Carriacou. What is the then MP doing for Carriacou and Petit Martinique? That was Kinder Maturin Stewart. And he said, well, if you want to count roads, that's it, really. But if, as a representative, and I'm paraphrasing here, anyone hear me counting roads as an achievement, bring me up in Monge. Now listen to him here.
Of course, having to deal with, if I could put it in the simplest way of saying it, and how are you able to overcome them if you have overcome some of those challenges within the Sister Isles?
Well, let's deal with the things that we are doing. So I'm happy that you talked about I'm happy that you acknowledge that there's a lot of things that are happening in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. But for those who may seem to need glasses or may not know that there are a lot of things happening in Carriacou, maybe I could refresh some memories or probably just update as a way of updating the general public. We have several road projects that has been either completed or under construction, whether it's the Belle Road project, which is a major road project connecting, that's our hospital, or main emergency road to the hospital. We have the Brunswick roundabout widening, and of course drain development. We have the power station road, which is, I know that the villagers in that area in Carriacou, which is extremely happy with the road construction that has taken place there. The Leicester Solution Drain, the Haverville Road, the top and bottom Lawrencetown Road, the Monroe Road, the Granby Road, over 2,000 feet of road is being constructed in Petit Martinique. The Prospical Road, and I could continue about all the other roads that we're building. Point in Carriacou, that road project will start soon. Point Mount Pleasant Road will be starting soon. I believe next week, Monday, the construction will start. But roads, every government build roads, and we just continue what we do.
Did he say several roads? And the only achievement he had there was roads? Road and road and road and more road? Clear room up at Monge, the facility, the mental health facility. Ask your girl, number 10, to prepare a room for you. You're coming up. It's easy to blah, blah when you're on the other side, right? Yeah, it's easy, very easy. Today, even after a devastating Hurricane Beryl, and monies to help the relief and the build-back process of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, monies like the monies of the CRIF insurance payout, among others. The people of Carriacou and the Petit Martinique are still suffering, yes, suffering, and left to fend for themselves. Where is that vision the minister spoke of? Where is that sustainable development the minister spoke of? Where's that fight he had in him for the people of Carriacou and Petit Martinique before the elections? Brother Deacon, what happened to that? Put your foot down. It's time to put your foot down. It's almost 1 year later after Hurricane Beryl, and not one Build Back Better house in Petit Martinique, just a handful in Carriacou, and some 26 prefab houses was donated. Thank you very much. We've had enough of the mama guy. But come on now. Let's get serious. Still have a little time. Let's get serious. Now for this one, I'm going to start off by showing you a clip of the Minister for Youth and Sports, number 10.
Just recently, we launched the Elevator program. And brothers and sisters, Elevator is a program that is different to the Imani program. The Elevator is not a program that will enable our young people to be exploited. It's aimed at providing training with a given timeline and immediate transition and assisting them to find jobs, or we assist them with small businesses and hold their hands until they are very successful. So that's what sets it apart. Brothers and sisters, I want to speak about the new Imani program, because I know many of you would have seen that we sent home trainees and they are, these are political propaganda. This government cares too much about our young people. This government put millions in providing assistance for young people. You see, brothers and sisters, every time you hear that this government doesn't care about young people, what they tell you about the Imani program. And so we have trainees who are in the private sector for in excess of 10 years. If you are training for 10 years, then you must get your PhD and over that. Or if you're training for 5 or more years, then you have to have a master's degree to show. So you can be in a private sector, government is paying you, and you receive nothing from the private sector, they're not willing to pay you, and we continue to pay. So as a government, we have decided to remove 37 persons. And I'm going to give you a breakdown on that particular issue. Because last year we decided to look into the issue of trainees who are placed in private sector, 10 years, 8 years, 7, 5, and so. And so we started to have honest discussions with those employers to ensure, to ask them whether or not they can take these people full-time and pay them, not only pay them $700 or $800, but pay them the minimum wage. So we started at least the minimum wage. So we started with over, maybe close to 200 trainees. And so many of the businesses took those trainees. Some took them in December. And so by the time April, we were left with 87. 87. And so we gave them until April. At the end of that period, 37 persons from different private sectors, so maybe one place may have 2 or 3, decided that I cannot keep those trainees, or I cannot pay them. I could keep them, government paying them, no problem, but I would not pay them. Brothers and sisters, that is exploitation. And as a government, we will not continue. So we remove them from the site to place them in more meaningful engagement. But while we transition them, we had several meetings, and we said to them, we'll continue to pay you. So you have to ignore those naysayers when they come with all that kind of stories looking for pity. If you care about the young people, they were not going to be in training program for all this period.
Now there goes our Minister for Youth and Sport. So there were private sector businesses who had Imani workers. Let's get that right, right? For whatever reason, said they could not afford to keep and pay them under the new minimum wage act. Right? And that was referred to as exploitation by the minister. Now, which part of that is exploitation? The word sound good, right? Exploitation. But as a minister, and a minister of youth, is that a use word that you know the meaning of? Or you shut up? So they were removed from the private sector businesses where they were what I will term job training and gaining experiences and responsibilities, right? They were removed and sent home, and she proudly said they continued to pay them. So you didn't pay them, you refused to pay them while they were at these establishments, gaining experiences, responsibilities, being trained in a profession, whatever it might be. And you claim they were being exploited. Now, if the company said, listen, I can't afford to keep them, and you chose to move them because how are they being exploited now, might I ask? How? So now you send them home. I guess the young men out there on the blocks, maybe even some of the young ladies, smoking a weed every now and again, right? Getting into trouble. Or just sitting at home twiddling your thumbs. And you paying them. Now, in my mind, that is non-productive, right? That is non-productive. And you paying them to be non-productive. Now, number 10 said the private sector was exploiting the Imanis. And you know, I like to explain to you the meaning of certain words because, especially when it's used poorly. Exploitation, the action or fact of treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work. They were not being treated unfairly. They were working and the government was paying them. The company say they can't pay them and you remove them. You're not exploiting them if you want. With all this crap about naysayers and all the drama. Lesson on the drama. Lesson on the drama. You place the trainees at those businesses. And yes, you was there. You were there. You placed them there. And they were being paid by the government. Remember, it's about the young people and taking them off the blocks. It's the streets. So this cracking jokes, the stand-up comedy part about oh yeah, good joke. About if they're there 10 years, they're supposed to have a doctorate and how much years they're supposed to get their masters and they're training. And from what I understand, nobody's saying it was a perfect program, or it is a perfect program. But persons did several different training, right? They were kept busy. That's the point. They were kept busy. They were given a sense of hope. It might be small, but it's still something. I heard of Imani trainees who became medical doctors, teachers, lawyers, even media workers. I mean, across the board. You come with what? Elevator. Just a name change, folks. Just a name change. When asked to take over the payments of the salaries of the trainees, the ones that couldn't afford to do so. You proudly said you removed them. You removed them. So where's the exploitation? Now, what you did, in my mind, stupidity and downright arrogance on yours and your government's part. Because I don't think you could make that decision on your own. I mean, y'all do crazy things, but I don't think y'all that crazy, right? Your cabinet, or should I say your cabinet, and you're proud of it. Because you're big and you're bad. You're proud of it. Especially as Minister for Youth. Now, as I have you here, it will be remiss of me not to ask about the love affair between yourself, Delma Thomas, and Tantika, Gloria Thomas. Anyone was fooled by your actions, they can only be referred to as being gullible. And the person I feel foremost is Tantiglo. See that clip?
Please, let us not try to invoke the dead. We have nobody running against us in this constituency, so let's not try to invoke no dead. We are not Christ, so we're not resurrecting any dead. So we're moving forward. We are not calling anybody name because we have no competition. But before I sit down, let me give you a joke now. Today I sat in my veranda home and there was someone who walking around. You know, sometimes they say dead does walk around. Someone was walking around in my village. But here what now? She ignored a number of houses that she's supposed to ask for support. But she came to my house and she told me that she is the NDC candidate for the constituency and she asking me for my vote. Brothers and sisters, you know they talk about follow on in cricket. Maybe I can give her one vote. So maybe to avoid the follow on. You know that in cricket, follow on? Maybe just one vote. Because the truth is, there's nothing happening here.
Now, you guys think that's a prank, right? But I followed the campaign. I followed the campaign of both parties closely. I actually saw that live, saw her saying that live. So when I see the Ring of Roses start to play, I was like, oh, okay. Well, let's say people can change. But I also say you can't bend the tree after it's old. So all the jump up and the love up, it didn't faze me. I knew that was a dose of hungry mouth and beggy, in the words of the Prime Minister. Former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell had cut off the allowance, the free allowance. So it was time to move on and try somewhere else. It had absolutely nothing to do with the love for country and the love for Tanti Glow. And oh, it was branded a new style of politics. You know that they can unite like that for their constituency. It was about getting in and getting a salary. The doing things together had nothing to do with the love for constituency. Once she got in, she made it clear to Tanti Glow, to all of us, I am the MP. In other words, Tanti Glow, who are you again? I am the one elected. There they are, walking, doing walks together, hugging up. The NDC Women's Arm, Prayer Warriors, headed by Sister Joan Purcell, had a session with them.
Oneness ensures that no one thinks better than oneself. And I thank you for Sister Gloria that you have used her to lead the way. Father, you say that you have poured much into her. Over the years, you've seen her humble heart. Over the years, you've seen her love for people. Over the years, you've seen her love for community. And this is what you want to show off as you bring these two women leaders together as a point of contact to show Grenada what oneness can be. So I thank you for my sister Gloria. I pray for her in a special way. Holy Spirit, continue to expand her, continue to grow her, continue to build her in righteousness, Lord. I pray for my sister Delma. Father God, you know everything about her. You know her heart. You know that the heart that she's had for you. And Father, she will defy every evil spirit and may seek to come against her in the name of Jesus. I ask for protection. I ask for healing. I ask for wholeness. I ask for oneness. I ask for strength. I ask for courage, oh God. The courage that only you can do to defy every principality of power which is against unity and oneness. I thank you, Lord. I thank you for what you're doing, what only you can do as you use these two women to show holy oneness and unity. Our country needs it. Our country calls for it. The National Democratic Congress needs this more than ever. Thank you, Lord, for this gift of oneness that you're beginning to show us as you show us the way forward. We thank you, Lord. We thank you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In you we live and move and have our being. We thank you, we praise you for Jesus, our Lord and Savior, who did it all in his name, in his power, in his strength. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Amen and amen. Good prayer, good prayer. And then she was in, member of cabinet, ministerial portfolios, total crossover. Still thanking Tanti Glow for her friendship, exposing private moments in Parliament.
I want to place on record my thanks to Sister Gloria Thomas because this lady wanted to get me out even when the rain falling. I have to remind her I have a husband. So, Mr. Speaker, you know I love this lady so very much. And I said if there's one issue I have with her, and I told her I'm going to tell her in the Parliament, she wouldn't hear it before, but I'm going to say it in the Parliament. She would call me 3 o'clock in the morning or text me. I'm not sure what she's hoping to find, but I have a husband in my bed.
To me, that was no joke. And that was the beginning of the end. That was when the table started to turn. I'm the MP. I won the seat. I'm sitting in the lower house of Parliament. Where are you? I made 10. Okay? So with the crossover, the NDC went from 9 to 10. And then the thing started to get sour. a little grimy. And it was obvious because there were no more ring of roses and, you know, together, here we are. The separation of the doubting Thomases. An obvious competition between the two, doing things in their constituency separately now. Sister Gloria, Tanti Glo visited that school. Number 10 visited the other school. Not together, separate and apart. And the word started to spread of the tension between the two. And they tried damage control. We've seen them after that. After there was articles written and, you know, persons insinuating of the tension and between them. And they had them swinging together one day in a park somewhere and giggling, grinning. But you can only pretend for so long. We all know the biblical story of Judas. He agreed to betray Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, that he would identify Jesus to the soldiers by kissing him. And they arrived, the person I kiss, that's the person you need to stab in the back. The betrayal led to Jesus' arrest, trial, and crucifixion. A perfect fit. After the swinging session, here they are attending a funeral. If you look at the screen, they were attending the same funeral. Huh? Today, number 10, Delma Thomas of the National Deceptive Cult, the NDC. And I quote, "Kicking off our village meeting series in Mount Horn, there's no better place to begin than at home." And if you look on the screen, you see her sitting there at her meeting, a series of village meetings in her constituency. But I thought they were doing it together. So where is Tanti Glo? Visibly missing is Tanti Glo. An unbelievable, visible, sitting next to number 10 at the head table, long-standing stalwart of the NDC and forever chairman of the branch, chairman under Alan Walker, chairman under Philip Alexander, chairman under Tanti Glo. Another Thomas, Larry Thomas. Hey, Larry. You look at somebody, pick him up and put him sit down there. Now sitting next to Delma Thomas. But what happened to the 70% of the NNP supporters who moved with her? You see that 2-3 row of people sit down inside there? That's the NDC supporters. Because she's no NDC. The person sitting next to her is NDC. Where's her man of business from the NNP? Was it Scott? Scott? Oh, Scott must be a movement, you know. Scott must be the movement because Scott was a real supporter of Peter David, yeah. When they were trying to wrestle the party from Tillman Thomas, Scott was one of the chairpersons that signed the letter they prepared for them to sign to say that Peter was more popular than Tillman Thomas. Yeah. Now, Tanti Glo, now the so-called chairperson of the NDC, that was a good move on you there, Tanti Glo, but you didn't see it coming. Gave you a little heads up, but you maybe don't listen to the Simon do you now? You were played like a fiddle. Now I leave you with a beautiful presentation done by the Honorable Delma Thomas at the 2022 budget debate.
Mr. Speaker, the value expounded in the budget speech delivered by the Minister of Finance and the proud representative of St. George's Northeast, Honorable Gregory Bowen, is consistent with the value of all previous New National Party government. I want to go on record, Mr. Speaker, as congratulating the honorable member and his team who worked on developing a transformative package. Mr. Speaker, this morning we heard the leader of the opposition saying no innovation and no initiative. This is the cookie-cutter, regularly packaged opposition criticism. It appears, Mr. Speaker, that the leader of the opposition now joined the elite, and so would always be vexed when ordinary people get assistance from this government. Mr. Speaker, the package that has been unveiled here indicated a government that is connected to the people, a government that cares for the people, a government that listens to the people, and a government that understands a people's reality. It further expands on the bridge that has been under construction to the future. It is a budget that reconfirms the people's faith, because our people know our track record. We have always delivered, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, we shall keep moving, because as we emerge from the devastation of the pandemic, we know that we cannot afford to sit down. Mr. Speaker, this march to people's empowerment is a continuous one, which cannot be interrupted by any false detour of untested areas. Mr. Speaker, some of the few naysayers say this is an election budget. An election budget, you say? But wasn't that the same thing you said last year and maybe the year before? Well, if an election budget means dealing with cost of living, looking out for real people, well, every year we have had an election budget, because every year we have continued to deliver for ordinary people. Mr. Speaker, this government, the New National Party government, which I'm proud to be a part of, has a proven track record of balancing budgets, of not just balancing budgets, but also balancing people's life. This budget seeks to invest in our people for growth and development, which is a fundamental premise that guides the action of the two very important ministries where I have responsibility: the Ministry of Social Development, Housing and Community Empowerment, and the Ministry of Health, where I have special responsibility for hospital and community health services. As we soldier on this premise, I am proud, Mr. Speaker, and humbled to lead in this rewarding task of leaving no one behind. It has been a challenging period, Mr. Speaker, with the COVID pandemic. It has been a difficult time as we saw our very true wave of the COVID virus. But we are committed as a people, as the staff within the two ministries, to continue working to do what it takes of us, Mr. Speaker, to develop our people. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that over $40 million have been allocated to preserving and expanding social safeguards. Of this $40 million, Mr. Speaker, 19 million will be allocated to some form of housing assistance. And Mr. Speaker, during the year under review, where everyone knew what happens in terms of government collecting revenue, in terms of having our first true spike, government has never, ever stopped the social programs. Mr. Speaker, in fact, we know that in terms of the pandemic, last year we started feeling the real impact. But last year is when government had an increase in the housing assistance program. So from 6 million over all these years, last year we reached to $10 million, Mr. Speaker. That is a government that cares. It's a government that cares about the development of our people, understanding and appreciating that everyone around us needs housing assistance, or most people around us within our rural areas, they need assistance. And so the COVID pandemic would have shown us that there are homes where we need to expand, we need to add a room because of some situations, social situations. There were areas where we had fires and we had to rebuild. And we all know very well that there was an increase in material costs. And so in order to sustain providing assistance, we had to move. But we moved at a time, Mr. Speaker, when we were collecting less revenue. It is also important to note that during this year, we had 5 million for bathroom and toilet. But it's also important to note, Mr. Speaker, that this new bathroom and toilet program, a very first program for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Martinique, we always hear about Sir Eric Gary and the development he has done. But we have never heard of bathroom and toilet in his time. A caring new national party government, Mr. Speaker, during the COVID pandemic, when we collected less revenue, introduced a bathroom and toilet to lift our people out of poverty. So our people not stupid, Mr. Speaker. We can bring anyone and say, we bring in youth. Well, we have youth here too. Are you looking? When I got involved in politics, I was 32. That's true youth, not 44. 44 is no youth because I'm within that age range and I'm no longer a youth. But we have our sister Materian Stott who's missing here. She's considered a youth. That's why she's missing here. And I want to congratulate her on her newborn baby. Mr. Speaker, she's a youth. That's why she can give birth. When you're over 40, you're not looking to make children anymore. There's no youth there, Mr. Speaker. The youth is around here. Kate Skeeter Lewis is a youth. And many of our members here, Mr. Speaker, we started as youth. Emmeline Pierre, and we have other members who can call. The very opposition leader that is talking about youth. He entered this parliament as a youth under the new National Party government, Mr. Speaker. And this needs to be known. So we don't get tired up, Mr. Speaker, and our people are not getting tired up about this youthful thing. Because they know that the only government that really cares about them is the new National Party government. We need to look back as we talk about housing. During that time, how many people can say that we receive housing assistance under NDC government? NDC government see housing and improving the life of people, ordinary people as greedy and needy and greedy. That's what they call them. But the only true government, Mr. Speaker, the only true party that truly cares about our people is the new National Party. And our people, they do not forget. So let's not take them for fool and say there's a wave. There's no wave.
Well, I mean, that's only almost 3 years ago. Now, there's no way that it could be complete flip, right? From one party to the next, saying that then about the NNP party, everything good, everything wonderful, defending the NNP to the bone. That's not real. And then crossing over and the same exact way, or trying to at least. If you notice, the passion is not there as much as it was when she was an NMP. But I guess it's livelihood, huh? It's a way of life, and by any means possible. How can you trust someone like that to be your representative? You don't know what would happen next after the next election. Maybe she'll join the D move. Because remember what she said to us that had her crossing. Basically, it was the fact that she went to speak to Dr. Mitchell about giving Peter David the leadership of the party after the elections. And she didn't like the outcome of the answer. Remember that? That's why. That's the main reason that she told us. So who knows? Next election after she might be, I am Delma Thomas and I'm the movement. You know, I suspected, I knew that the PM, would have put the PM in trouble. I only didn't think it would have been so soon. And so we all see the internet breaking. I'm not sure if it was in the news. I haven't seen news lately about his ticks on the jab and jab. He has to deal with it because the jabs are out too early and there's a carnival season. Well, let me just play the clip for you to hear what he said on his own. Why am I repeating it?
I do want to highlight one thing, though, that I've seen jab already being played on the nation rolls. It's a little too early for that, so there's something that we have to talk about. There's carnival season and there's non-carnival season. We're not quite yet into the carnival season, so I think this is something that I want our citizens to appreciate, that carnival is a season. Yeah. It's a particular time of the year, and we need to make sure that we do so safely within that season. It's just too early to have jab being played on the roads. I see things grand dance on the main road. I've seen it in some of the villages already. So it's something that we have to talk to Spice Mass and to revelers and so on about, to make sure that we are able to do this safely and securely.
Now, first of all, Carnival was launched on the 1st of May 2025. And so once Carnival is launched, then Carnival season is open. So I don't understand it's not Carnival season and I don't understand that. But it's talk, and talk a set of nonsense at the end of the day. But I'm not going to get into that with jab in parliament, jab is Amos, who played jab, who ain't played jab. I'm going to leave him to vouchers on Facebook. They're doing a very good job of that. So I'm going to leave him to that. But the DM question that was directed at him that I want to bring to you, because it's the lead up to the meat of the matter today, is this clip on Mount Sinai and what would our relation be with Cuba. Here is what the Prime Minister's answer to that was.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The next question comes from Samantha Pascal. Will Mount Sinai be allowed to associate with Cuban doctors, given the U.S. government's position on Cuba and Mount Sinai's ties to the U.S.?
Well, it's a question for Mount Sinai. I can't answer the question as to what Mount Sinai would or will not be allowed to do.
Well, what Mount Sinai here is a question for Mount Sinai. You and your administration brought Mount Sinai to us. So we are assuming that you clear up all these things with Mount Sinai and have an answer for us. And don't tell us to ask Mount Sinai. Right? How it is that as Prime Minister and Chairman of the Cabinet, you're saying that this question is a question for Mount Sinai to answer. Is Mount Sinai in charge? Grenada has had friendly and diplomatic and bilateral relations with Cuba for 46 years. It is because of Cuba, poor people, children, as we say, was able to realize their dreams of becoming professionals like physicians, veterinarians, engineers, just to name a few, dentists. Our health system is better today because of the support system from Cuba through the doctors and the nurses program. Just over a year ago, the Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, accompanied by a larger delegation, of ministers, of cabinet, and the technocrats, the Orlando Romains and such like, visited Cuba and boasted of signing 7 MOUs, right? Which have not yet got it. I don't think they've signed the agreements as yet. Let's hear the Prime Minister as he came back from Cuba at the airport.
The 3-day meeting in Cuba involved a number of meetings. The meetings ranged from a full-fledged meeting with His Excellency Miguel Diaz-Bermudez, President of Cuba. We also met with the Prime Minister of Cuba. We met with the Foreign Minister and other senior cabinet members of Cuba, as well as senior officials of the Cuba Communist Party. The delegation also had the opportunity to visit significant institutions in Cuba. Many of these institutions tell the history, the struggle, the success, and the triumph of the Cuban people, and how that success has not just benefited Cuba, but has benefited Grenada, CARICOM, and the world. As you are aware, Grenada has significant bilateral relations with Cuba, and we cooperate in a number of areas. The ministers who accompanied me to Cuba did so because of the particular areas of interest that we have cooperated with Cuba over the years. The highlight of the visit included the signing of 4 bilateral cooperation agreements, and we will provide greater details on these during the coming week. We anticipate further agreements to be signed, including with later this month when the Minister for Culture and Tourism visits Cuba. But I just want to highlight a couple of things. One, we visited Santiago de Cuba just before arriving back from Grenada. Santiago boasts as being the most Caribbean of Cuba. And there are a number of significant issues arising out of that visit, and I would perhaps say the most significant being this. As you are aware, there isn't a single statue or bus in tribute to our fallen former Prime Minister, the Morris Bishop in Grenada. But at the Casa de Caribe in Santiago, there stands a beautiful statue or bus in tribute to Morris Bishop. We had the opportunity to meet with the son of the sculptor that operates a foundation and a company that has significant experience and expertise in the creation of bus. We engaged in discussions surrounding commissioning a bus to represent Morris Bishop and the 18 colleagues who were killed on the 19th of October 1983 to be done by the sculptor and his foundation. And so we anticipate that before October 19th, 2024, that we'll have a bus of Morris Bishop together with the 18 colleagues who fell. And more importantly, we will signal the commencement of a relationship with that foundation to teach Grenadians, students in particular, the art of bus making, the art of sculpture, and all that goes with it. I highlight this because this is just one example of the significant success and gratification that came from such a trip. Now,
after listening to the snippet of that press conference, I have questions. Just a couple. Where is that bust of Morris Bishop and the 18 colleagues who fell, which was supposed to have been here in time for October 19, 2024? And 2, whatever happened to those 7 MOUs? And it could be 9, because remember, after they came back, 2 ministers, and I remember one being the Minister of Tourism, Adrian Persuader Thomas, was supposed to go to Cuba to sign MOUs as well. Were these agreements ever signed? What happens now as the person message, they DM the Prime Minister, now that Mount Sinai is here and from the USA, and we know what's going on with the USA and Cuba and the bullying of the countries in the Caribbean that has relationship with Cuba. How is it, Prime Minister, you can't answer the question posed to you about Mount Sinai? Will we be working with Mount Sinai and Cuba simultaneously? It should be one of your first discussions. Again, what was the outcome of your visit to Washington to meet with Marco Rubio, United States Secretary of State? Now let's set question on how will Mount Sinai treat with our relationship with Cuba and the Cubans, the health practitioners, working in our health system. That question was posed to the project sponsor, Ms. Andrea St. Bernard, and the lead consultant, Mr. Damian Donald, on the Bob report last Sunday. And this is what was said.
But of course, the Mount Sinai is an American-based medical service provider. And in Grenada, we also have Cuban medical professionals. Now, I do know that there are clear rules of engagement for American companies as it relates to any kind of engagement with Cuba, really, with the United States, because, of course, Cuba is illegally sanctioned by the United States, in my view. Is that something that perhaps Mount Sinai raised, or the government of Grenada is concerned about, to at least protect not only Grenada, but to protect an American company, so that perhaps Mount Sinai would also not be inadvertently sanctioned for perhaps working along with the Cuban medical professionals that we have in our system? I'm not sure if that's something that you thought about.
It certainly is something that we've thought about. All parties are aware of the dynamics. And as I said, we continue to work on our comprehensive plan, understanding all of the factors for the overall HR plan going forward. But certainly these are components that we're aware of, all parties are aware of, and would be factors in the ongoing planning for the comprehensive HR rollout.
So what we know here, that Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell does not seem to be updated to what is happening with Project Polaris and Mount Sinai and Cuba. He has no idea? Or is he not being transparent? NDC has never been transparent with the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We always left guessing. We've always left guessing. On Sunday, the 25th May, 2024, 2 members of the 3-man delivery unit were guests on the Bob report. Ms. Andrea St. Bernard, the project sponsor, and Mr. Damian Donald, the lead consultant. What is clear is that there are much more questions than answers surrounding Project Polaris. In that interview, we were told that the 2.5 million USD to Mount Sinai annually for their affiliation will come from the consolidated fund. And that's according to the project sponsor, Ms. Andrea St. Bernard.
Where is the 2.5 million coming from to pay Mount Sinai in the interim, in respect of what they will be doing now, or what they've been doing now? Is that also coming from the consolidated fund?
Indeed, this is government of Grenada making an investment really into improving healthcare and ultimately putting us on a path for the journey to create a legacy of excellent healthcare for Grenadians. So yes, absolutely, the government of Grenada is committed to making the necessary investments to see that happen. And the initial payment structure arrangements that we have with Mount Sinai is evidence of that commitment.
0.5 million USD annually from the consolidated fund when we have not even Panadol at the general hospital at times, while the families and parents have to use private imaging centers and labs to get tests done for their loved ones. And sometimes, by the time the results get to them, their loved one dies, would have passed. 0.5 million USD to Mount Sinai, and we can't pay our teachers. Some have to receive salaries for 2 months now. One particular teacher in a situation where she takes care of a mom who is ill and needs attention daily, had to borrow money from her school, had her school pay her salary until she gets paid and she can repay them, because they understand her situation. They know what she's going through. 2.5 million USD from our consolidated fund to pay Mount Sinai and our school feeding program. It was 2.5 million US dollars from Mount Sinai. And we covered in bushes. 2.5 million USD to Mount Sinai. And our schools are badly in need of furniture. Families continue to traverse the island on the backs of DJ trucks with cups, begging for financial support for their loved ones. In most cases, kids, infants, toddlers, teenagers begging for help to try and save their lives. Here's a clip of a young child right now in the hospital who needs help to travel, been in the hospital for months because her family don't have the resources to take the child away.
Marsha Ogilvie, a St. Andrew mother, is seeking support to cover the cost for specialized care and treatment for her 3-year-old daughter, Aria Ogilvie, who has been a patient at the General Hospital for the past 2 months. Aria's mother says that according to medical reports from Aria's doctor, the treatment and care needed for her daughter are not readily available in Grenada. A tearful Ogilvie says Aria's diagnosis has brought significant emotional and financial challenges and trauma to her family, even noting that Aria's father has been emotionally broken to the point where he's unable to visit his daughter in her ailing stage. Marsha said that the funds needed to travel with Aria is excessive and is appealing to persons for financial assistance. She says she has launched a fundraising campaign in her village, Tivoli, with help from her family and community members, and has been hosting breakfast sale and motorcades to assist with the expenses associated with Aria's treatment.
We have reached out to other countries hoping that they will accept her for diagnostic and treatment, well, properly diagnostic and treatment. We have gotten response for a couple, but Jamaica seems as our best option. They seem also as the cheapest because they're asking for $48,000 US, which is $130,000 EC. That is for 3 months for diagnostic and treatment. We don't have the full amount. We do have some money, but it's not enough. So we're reaching out to the public to see what form of assistance we can get. We are in the process of trying to acquire a loan, so we're hoping for the best.
Ogilvy is hopeful that help will come while expressing the pain and frustration her family is experiencing.
We do have our breakfast sales on our own. We do have 2 motorcades. So that is it at the moment.
The nation is encouraged to support Aria's fight against leukemia by contributing to the family's fundraising efforts. Donations can be made through the official GoFundMe page, Join Aria's Fight Against Leukemia, or you can contact 535-4961 or 415-5838. For MTV News, Michaela Mark.
Compliments MTV, and I do hope that with this advertisement here that they can get some help through Simon Says and our followers and listeners and fans. You know, and then there's primary health care.
Grenada does have, say whatever you want about Grenada's healthcare system, we do have a very decentralized infrastructure, meaning physical infrastructure. So you have your district medical stations, you have your secondary hospital facilities, both in Maribor as well as in Carriacou. Back in the day, I was able to go to see my community doctor in PT Esperance, St. David's, as the Prime Minister's village. That's Dr. Rao. I think both the Prime Minister and myself shared the same doctor, community doctor. Of course, you had doctors who paid home visits and things like that. What would that look like under Project Polaris? Because we're hearing a lot about that medical city that is being constructed, but we do have a decentralized healthcare system. So is Project Polaris taking into consideration perhaps enhancing the infrastructure and the capacity at both Maribor and the hospital in Carriacou?
So certainly the upgrading and improvement of the healthcare system in general, from the primary care, the health centers, overall is necessary, and it's all part of the overall plan towards improving healthcare, the health system in Grenada in general. Project Polaris is specifically focused on the design, build, development, operation of the new hospital. And so I have to state the scope to that extent as you're referring to Project Polaris. But certainly Project Polaris works very closely and continues to collaborate very closely with the Ministry of Health so that we can understand and adequately integrate all the elements of improvement as we move forward on this journey. And certainly we are planning for and anticipating a lot of knowledge transfer to take place as we are seeking and receiving expert guidance on policies, structures, procedures, etc. In certain areas of the system, we will be making plans to integrate and share knowledge and essentially create a more comprehensive, better overall health system for Grenada.
Very well. Now, Mr. Dollar, is there anything else you wish to add? I'm sure that came up in the consultation with Mount Sinai.
No, that's 100% correct.
Uh-huh.
And so I think the one thing I will add is just to really maybe summarize, we realize that to have a successful secondary and tertiary care institution, we have to have a strong primary health care infrastructure. And so these cannot be separated. It actually needs to be integrated. And that is one of the core principles of Project Polaris, one of the 5 core pillars. And that is a focus. But as indicated earlier, the delivery of that, the strengthening of that is separate from Project Polaris, but we are working in conjunction with the Primary Healthcare, Ministry of Health, etc., to make sure we share best practices and to ensure the system works holistically for all.
And the answer is no. As was said by project sponsor, Ms. Andrew St. Bernard. She said Project Polaris is specifically focused on the designs, built, and operation of the new hospital, the medical city, full stop. Right? It has nothing to do with any other component. We have polyclinics. The polyclinic in St. John, that's there, practically empty, and operates on like a business. Not any business, like a government office, from 8 to 4. A mini hospital out there in St. John. to serve the whole Western corridor. So what are the other components of this so-called Project Polaris?
What would be the other components of the projects, particularly the areas that would be privately funded, be it through CBI or other funds or means?
So excellent question. And the rest of the medical city is open for discussion about opportunities from private investors. So that includes, it includes quite a bit. It's 84 acres. We are planning to have a residential component, a retirement community, a resort hotel segment, but also the medical city itself. So we would build additional medical infrastructure for additional medical services that can be offered and provided by private service providers. And so these are areas that it will very much depend upon investor opportunities, but also we have been doing research to understand what are the best opportunities for Grenada from the perspective of medical tourism and adding on other service availabilities. So it's a broad array of opportunities as we build out the city. And so there's certainly more to come in that space.
And again, the answer is no. Mount Sinai has nothing to do with things like national health insurance, or any other thing. The Deacon Mitchell-led administration cancelled the contract on the national health insurance with JIPA, an agreement signed between the government of Grenada and JIPA under the Keith Mitchell-led administration. To date, we haven't heard anything about national insurance scheme or the continuation where we were, where we are today. Not even after this 15-year agreement was signed between the government of Grenada and Mount Sinai. Speaking of the 15-year agreement, this is what the project sponsor, Ms. Andrea St. Bernard, had to say.
15-year arrangement, this big picture, long-term arrangement that you have with that you intend on having with Mount Sinai. There are two parts of this question. What benefits is it? What benefits does Mount Sinai receive from this? Is there going to be any sort of marketing benefit? Is the hospital going to be Government of Grenada Mount Sinai facility? What comes out of this for them, for Mount Sinai, big picture? And the second part of that question is, I know that 15-year arrangement that you have, what measures are in place to ensure continuity should in the event or in the unlikely event that a government changes? What happens to that arrangement if administration, because different administrations have different priorities and things like that?
So the agreement is an agreement entered into by the government of Grenada, and so it is a 15-year agreement commitment by the government of Grenada. And as you know, when administrations change, it doesn't change commitments, legal obligations of the government. Certainly, a new administration might choose to make new commitments or change commitments, but the 15-year arrangement is a legal obligation on behalf of the government of Grenada, and so unless there is a termination or breach of that agreement, it would last for 15 years.
So we were told the monies to pay Mount Sinai will come from the consolidated fund. The question was, where will the rest of the funding come from?
What are we looking at here in respect of funding? Of course, from the consolidated fund, we know that there will be some funds, but is it only coming from the consolidated fund? Where would the rest of the funding be coming from for this? This is a massive project.
Indeed, it's a very big project. It will be a huge capital investment for the government of Grenada. But of course, it's an investment in the wellness and health of our people. And so it is worth it. And to ensure that it's done successfully, we have very much considered how best to structure the capital required for the operation, as well as how will we maintain operations going forward. So from the perspective of the hospital, as we've said, it's a Government of Grenada hospital, and so it will have to be financed essentially by the Government of Grenada. Certainly, the government has already committed and set aside an equity component, as was announced in the budget speech. And in addition to that, we are now working very hard to find the best financing package for the rest of the construction of the hospital. So certainly that will include debt, and we have access and should be able to secure concessional level debt so that we are seeking the very lowest possible levels of interest rate with respect to the debt that we undertake for this project. But we would also, as you said, undertake fundraising initiatives, look for additional grant funding, and as well as donations, because this is a project that I think all Grenadians understand the need and understand what will be the benefit to each of us as we achieve this higher level of healthcare. So we certainly will be also launching a donations fundraising plan, along with our grant continuing to seek out grant funding, along with, as I said, the concessional debt and government equity.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Dolland, did you have any ideas in respect of funding, and what ideas did you propose to the team for funding this?
Yeah, so following up on what Ms. Bernard has mentioned, yes, we have specifically looked at various types of debt. We've broken it down and gone into a lot of detail. We've also studied the models that have been used in the region, from the new hospitals being put up in Guyana and Trinidad to those done around the world. So we are very familiar. We understand the sources of that capital. We have access to a lot of that capital. But we're just right now in 2025. It is our goal to come up with the right mix that allows us to minimize the financial obligations and to maximize the benefits to Grenada and the people of Grenada. In addition to that, we are also engaging with the best philanthropic engines around the world who have raised a lot of money. And if you look at it, you look at a lot of the U.S. institutions, and
Sister Kapin, you said which philanthropic organizations have you engaged?
So, for example, I'm not on the capital raising side, but in terms of the academic institutions. So we're talking about large U.S. Academic institutions that have raised literally billions of dollars of funding. And so we are working with them to understand their models and to also to replicate not only a once-off fundraising capital campaign project, but to be able to have a sustainable project, sustainable capital raising campaigns similar to what is done in the U.S. to make sure that this hospital medical city is sustainable and not just focusing on the initial build of the hospital.
So we've heard the big D word, death, right, from the project sponsor. And from what we gather from both Ms. St. Bernard and Mr. Dolland there, Project Polaris is a CBI project. Now, how is CBI involved?
Has there been any efforts to use or leverage Grenada's Citizenship by Investment program, Ms. St. Bernard, which I know you will probably have an answer to this, in respect of this new hospital, funding for the new hospital? CBI?
So for the new hospital itself, as you know, the government has already made an equity commitment, and there's no doubt that a large component of the government's equity commitment will come from contributions made through CBI. So again, the National Transformation Fund, as you said, which is used for the government to determine what are the priority projects. So funding from CBI through that component will certainly contribute to the building of the new hospital. But what I think is more important or worth noting as regards CBI in general, you said it. So far, what we've had are a few good resort, hotel, tourism projects that have been successful in the CBI space. so where's the real investment opportunity as related to the medical city? Well, this is the medical city, and now we're moving from not just the hospital, so the hospital itself is government funded, but the medical city, 84 acres that needs to be built out. That is an exceptionally dynamic space for investors to look at the opportunities available there. And so I think from a CBI perspective, what we would say is there are certainly project opportunities, and we would encourage private investors, local Grenadians in the diaspora, other interested investors to engage with us to understand what are the business opportunities for building out that medical city. And there's absolutely the opportunity for developers to then perhaps create an approved project that is a component of our medical city that then becomes a CBI product, for example.
Now, this is where Ms. St. Bernard comes in. Ms. St. Bernard and the Prime Minister, and maybe Minister Cornwall might get a little spillover, and Mr. Burr. This is where they come in. They are CBI agents. Now, 30,000 USD each applicant. Project Polaris is their investment. And as I said before, there are more questions than answers. The lead consultant couldn't say which philanthropic organizations they've engaged. Going along, we've engaged big philanthropic organizations. But when stopped in his tracks, he couldn't answer. Something that demonstrates a love for humanity, right? These philanthropic agencies. It often involves donating money, time, and resources to support good causes. Philanthropy is about uplifting others, and they're creating a better world, and can be done in various forms, including monetary gifts, volunteering, or funding social programs. Who are these philanthropic organizations? He couldn't answer. They're no name. How convenient. What do we know? What is that plan on borrowing? Because so far, that's what we know. We'd have to borrow. And then they're looking for investors. I also know that if at all Project Polaris come to fruition, some of us, or most of us, will be long gone, including the masterminds behind Project Polaris. Our children and their children will be left to foot the bill. However, I don't believe Project Polaris will be fully realized. Will Mount Sinai have any management role in Project Polaris?
Now, would Mount Sinai be having any management role in this new arrangement with Project Polaris? And if they are intending on having a management role, what would be the terms and conditions of that management role? Because if we're thinking about statutorization, of course, there is a board of directors, you have a CEO, you have a hospital administrator. There is a very clear management structure there. And where would Mount Sinai fit, if at all, would they be fitting in that administrative structure? Ms. St. Bernard?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that the relationship or the arrangement that we have with Mount Sinai is unique. It's not a typical public-private partnership, so that it's not profit-driven. The management structure is similar to the engagement that we have even at the existing hospital, except more additional engagement. The hospital remains a private or a public hospital. It remains the remit and the responsibility of the government of Grenada. The government then works closely with the Mount Sinai team to set the necessary standards and procedures and governance structures. So Mount Sinai is working in collaboration with the government of Grenada to ensure that the quality and standards at the hospital meet the necessary international standards. But again, it's the government of Grenada's hospital. The statutization is something that the government, again, is committed to as a means of providing an institution with the right structure and accountability to achieve the standards and to achieve a governance structure that permits for really the policies and standards to be set at the head of the hospital and then to be implemented throughout.
Folks, what is clear is that Project Polaris is a new economy created by those folks to feed themselves. Since all indications are the regular CBI program, the well is drying up. We don't need a medical city. We don't need to be the medical capital of the region. What we need is a proper healthcare system, which includes a functioning primary healthcare system. That if a farmer cut himself in his garden at 5 p.m., he should be able to access a polyclinic or a health center within close proximity and doesn't have to leave Rose Hill in St. Patrick to drive all the way to the General Hospital in St. George's to be sutured. And a pregnant mother with complications and in trouble have to travel from Portray in St. Andrew to St. George's to try and save her and her baby's life. We know of one mother who drove from St. Patrick to St. George's and died. They managed to save her baby. Yes, we need a new hospital, or rather, a hospital in a new location. But it is not a priority as we speak. It's not a priority now. What we need now is to save lives, to improve on what we have, to fix what we have now. Do you have any idea how much medicines can be bought with 2.5 million US dollars in a year? Because that's what we're giving Mount Sinai annually. How much material, gauze, suture thread, gloves, nebulizers, how many kidney patients can be dialyzed with 2.5 million US dollars? How many cancer patients can receive chemo and radiation treatments? Instead, it's about getting rich and trying to stay in office with that election ploy and that 15-year signed agreement. In wrapping up, this is what the project lead consultant, Mr. Damian Darlin, had to say.
I would like to start by saying, again, thank you for this opportunity and noting that from our perspective, healthcare should be a right and not a privilege as it currently is in Grenada. And we're here to make sure that all Grenadians have access to quality, affordable healthcare. And in order to do that, we need to do that together. This is a bipartisan matter. And as the African saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, we need to go together. And so this is, Project Polaris is leading the charge, but this is a large multi-stakeholder effort, including the Bub Report being part of that stakeholder universe. And we want to just make sure that we let everyone know that we are here to partner to make sure that Project Polaris is a success, both now and in the future for all Grenadians.
I don't understand. I don't understand the analogy of if you want to build a loan. Who plans to build a hospital alone? Who would try to do that? Who would try to do that? Huh? Did you hear that? Did you hear what he said? Project Polaris will be more affordable and accessible than what we have now. The General Hospital, mammagism, mammagism. As we were on health, I received a complaint a couple days ago in a plea for help to publish her plight. The individual said she has been employed with the Ministry of Health as a junior pharmacist since April the 3rd, 2019. Since then, however, she had signed one contract which covered the period of 2019 to 2020. That contract was signed in January of 2021, before the coming of NDC. Going forward, any form of communication or contract was done verbally, right? Contract renewal, that is, because she signed a contract in 2021. Anything else concerning contract was done verbally, telling them they're going to get the contract to sign. No salary increase since 2022 after her supposed contract ended. An increase was indicated by the finance department, but was unable, listen to this, but was unable to receive the increase due to the fact that a contract was not signed, something the individual has no control over. On numerous occasions, the individual had brought up the matter to her supervisor that she have not signed a contract since 2021 to no avail. Let me say here that this individual is not the only one affected by this whole system. There are other co-workers affected as well. On research by one of her colleagues, it was discovered not only were they denied a salary increase, but that they were in fact not being paid within the stipulated range for their grade. In ascension to the Ministry of Health, Philip Telesford, after the Prime Minister shuffled and him assuming the position of Minister for Health, this is what he had to say.
What is the first thing you do? You first want to recognize them as somebody in the system. So you basically either renew or issue a contract to recognize you as an employee. Right? So that's the first thing you have to do. So 2024, I want to ensure that every single body who are providing a service within the sector be given a contract. And with that, there is a complex problem. Because you have not been given a contract, you've been paid the same money that you've been paid when you started, let's say 10 years ago. You've been paid the same salary. You cannot claim any kind of, you don't get any kind of increase or any kind of recognition because you're not recognized in the system.
Right.
How are we doing? We now, in giving them that instrument, you now have to calculate for that period of time how much increases you should have gotten, and that will be added to your salary, and that is what you're going to get. So to take you, because if you don't do that, you'll find, and that is actually happening, you'll find people who just come in, they're getting more money than somebody who was there 10 years ago because you never got a salary increase. So when you have the union speaking about issuing new contracts should be issued on the opposition or whoever it is, and I'm not attacking anybody. The opposition is doing what they're supposed to do. They're making noises, they, drawing things to attention, and that's it. That's what it is. But we had to be sensible. Terry, we have to be sensible. We must appreciate where we are and the things that must be urgently done. And one of it has to do with these contracts. Bring people up to speed in terms of what your salary should be, give them an instrument of appointment, at least for 2024. And 2025, when you have been able to sort of normalize the situation, then you can talk about regularization, bringing them onto the general payroll in the way that it should be in terms of long-term, stable employment. Right? But we must start somewhere. And the sensible place to start is issuing them a contract and taking them to the salary that it should be earning in the first place. Frustrated. So now we, the government, must take full responsibility. Government is a continuum. We take full responsibility. We understand this is a problem. We embrace the problem. And now we are going to fix it. Right? It is on the outside. When you're in opposition, it's easy to say, we'll fix it day one. Well, the truth is, we intended to fix it on day one. And we approached and started the process on day one. But as in everything else, you cannot fix all of it on day one.
Takes time.
You have to adopt measures that are workable and that where you can achieve the outcome over a reasonable period of time. And that's exactly what the position the government has taken. That's why every month there is.
Will you believe this? The nerve of this guy. Was it all lies to cover up the fact that they were not even giving the workers contracts, much less regularization? Now, here we have workers who had signed contracts before. And now, since they came in, they have not signed one contract. And so they can, and he knows, because you hear him speaking about if they don't sign the contract, then they can't get their raise. He knows. This person had a contract signed, and she have colleagues. They had contract signed before, but since the coming up there, NDC, they have not gotten a contract to sign. Now, also in the conversation with numerous colleagues, it was evident that the superior was charging varied salaries for each staff member. Some are being paid within the said scale and at higher, and while others aren't even within the scale. Pharmacists that have recently joined the service are being paid way more than the ones that they met upon arrival in June 2022. Currently, the individual is acting as a senior pharmacist at one of the major health centers and has received no acting allowance. And she's been acting since August 30th, 2024. The permanent secretary was notified of the issues in writing, and the individual was called into a meeting. The PS admitted that she was aware, or she is aware, that there were a number of personnel issues within the ministry and that they were working overtime to rectify the issue. She was unable to give a timeline. The PS also told the individual that no one will be employed fully or full-time with the Public Service Commission since it has already reached its capacity of permanent staff. Now, this I'm hearing from a public servant who was told by her permanent secretary. We have not heard that before. So all this talk about they're going to be regularizing, we know that's fake, right? And so now this individual was told that it wouldn't happen because they have reached their limit, right? When asked how they will treat a salary increase in that arrangement, she was unable to give a feedback. The workers are complaining of what they termed disorganized, unfair, and exploitative behavior, and that it has gone on for far too long. They complain of working themselves to illness with little or no compensation. They are not only filling prescriptions, they collect cash, manage inventory, and clean in some instances. Clean, yes, clean. Much more than the stipulated work arrangement. Exploitation. Yet, they are treated like mere shopkeepers, pulled from the streets. The workers are pleading for help and ask that their situation be made aware of. Simon Says is calling on the relevant authorities to pay attention to those workers. They have families, they have responsibilities, and all they are asking for is equity and to be treated fairly, to be given contracts to sign, and hopefully be regularized as promised as soon as possible. Folks, to wrap up, I have a few questions for the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, what is the status of the school bus pilot project? How's that going? Give us a little update. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, besides Orlando Romaine, what and the monies he made on the $50 note for the Jubilee celebrations, what did the government and people of Grenada generate from the sale of the $50 note? How many persons purchased the $50 note for $80 because they are now visible, very visible on the market. They're like tin mango all over the place. Another failed project of the NOC. Just another means of eater food for the nation builders. Why are Chinese workers now on the job of Project 500? Also, I have been reliably informed that the Ministry of Infrastructure have disbursed workers on the Cliff Road project being paid by the government of Grenada. And they are there together with the workers of CCCI, but working separately. Only in Grenada. Only in Grenada. Mr. Randy Donner, the chairman of the board of tourism, now hold a position inside the Housing Authority or the Ministry of Housing, or just the middleman eating the food between the government of Grenada and the housing projects, Project 500 and the Build Back Better project, asking for some concerned citizens of Grenada. In this clip, Mr. Dolan is walking along with the Minister of Housing at a viewing of Project 500. Lest we forget, Mr. Dolan is the one bringing in the prefab houses for the Build Back Better project in Carriacou, where persons have to purchase the houses.
Minister for Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs, Senator the Honorable Gloria Thomas, expressed satisfaction with the project's progress and anticipation for its completion.
As Minister, I feel very much happy. I'm very much impressed with the progress being made, and I believe that we could complete this project in the next 6 weeks. I am very much impressed with the different technology that have been used. We have different options here, different sizes, and I think this is an opportunity for interested persons to have a wide variety of choices in the houses that are here. So we offer them different models, and I think people will find something that they're interested in. We start from the cozy, the smaller ones, up to 3 bedrooms. So we have 2 bedrooms, we have 3 bedrooms. And I think people will choose what they think is best for them based on their income, based on the family size, and based on the taste. As we are all aware, housing is a basic human need, and the demand in St. Andrew is very high. It is also high in other parishes, but I can tell you, the number of persons coming forward for housing in St. Andrew is really overwhelming. And I think having the project here in St. Andrews, that will address some of the housing needs. And I think it is well placed here to be taken up by residents in this parish.
Folks, this is what we have. That was the Minister of Housing. And I'm not going to pretend. I'm going to say it now. We need more competent and experienced and efficient persons running this country. We're running aground. We're running aground. That's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, keeping them honest. Thank you for viewing yet another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. See you next week. Same time, same place. Bye now.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.